5 versus 5. We will finish it maybe in this week with big surprise. And then let's see the result about this fight and the result of the big fight, 21 of December, Usyk Tyson.
Okay, so you got a lot of big plans.
Yeah.
This is another level. This is a really dangerous. He ain't fighting a granddad. He isn't fighting a grandfather. It's absolute lunacy. It's insane.
You, Alan, about AJ fighting Jake Paul, if I'm honest. Yeah. It's definitely a fight that we are talking about. It's definitely a fight that is fairly...
Like I say, I hope Jake Paul is mad enough and he picks Anthony Joshua, you know, because I don't think he's that mental.
Turki Alalshikh confirms the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight after Jake Paul's bout with Gervonta Davis was cancelled due to allegations against Davis. Anthony Joshua now steps in for a major heavyweight showdown, and fans are excited to see Joshua dominate Jake Paul in the ring. Duke McKenzie believes this is a very dangerous fight because we have a trained athlete at 18, stone facing a much smaller guy. He says Jake Paul hasn't earned the right to fight Anthony Joshua and has not beaten any top heavyweight, making this matchup risky and lopsided.
The right, I don't believe, to fight Anthony Joshua. It's not like he's beaten, 4 or 5, top line heavyweights, other heavyweights. I don't believe he's boxed any heavyweights.
Eddie Hearn warns that Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul is extremely dangerous. He says AJ will take Jake Paul's head clean off his shoulders, and this is not something a top 50 cruiserweight usually faces. The risk is clear, and this fight is a serious challenge for Jake Paul.
It's like that. But I said to Jake Paul, you ain't in a box, mate, and this ain't David Blaine. I said, so just be careful, because AJ will take your head clean off your shoulders, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And you take on that responsibility, and we all have to. So we got to think about that. But this is Anthony fighting a top 50 cruiserweight in the world. It's not something that we would normally do.
Tony Bellew calls the fight a gross mismatch and insists Jake Paul's health is in jeopardy. He says it's insane that money is being put before safety, and this is a dangerous gamble. Anthony Joshua has the power and experience to dominate this fight completely.
It's just a gross mismatch.
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand his health is in jeopardy. So I'm not even entertaining it. I just think it's dangerous. And listen, I might have to work it, but it's just...
It's kind of ludicrous, isn't it, really?
It's insane. This boy is nuts. He's nuts, and I think he's putting his life before he's putting his life before.
Derek Chisora warns that Anthony Joshua must finish Jake Paul fast or risk nightmares forever. He stresses that AJ has the skill and power to end this fight within 3 rounds. Jake Paul is no match for Joshua's experience and knockout ability.
But I will say this to AJ, don't let that guy knock you out, because that will be fucking nightmares forever. But 1 or 2, put it this way, AJ has to kill him in 3.
Spencer Oliver explains that Anthony Joshua sees the fight with Jake Paul as an easy money grab. He acknowledges that fans may not like it, but Joshua is focused on prize fighting and the financial benefit. At this stage of his career, it might not be necessary, but Joshua's mindset is clear.
Well, Anthony Joshua was talking about wanting warm-up fights before going into bigger fights, but look, it's prize fighting at the end of the day, and the way that Joshua will see it, and Matchroom and all the team, the fans won't like this, by the way. But
I don't like it
no,
either.
I don't like it either. But the way
like
that Joshua will see it is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab, but at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking? No.
Johnny Nelson says if he were in Anthony Joshua's position, he would take Jake Paul for the money. He admits the fight may not be serious in terms of competition, but recognizes Jake Paul has done an amazing job building hype. Joshua benefits from both challenge and reward.
If I was at this stage of his career, I'd take Jake Paul. I'd take Jake Paul because there's more money there. If it was real, I don't think it's real. I think it's bullshit. I think Jake Paul I think it's I think it's bullshit. I think it's Jake Paul.
Tyson Fury believes Jake Paul could knock Anthony Joshua out and describes AJ as a spent force. He thinks Jake Paul is on the rise and is impressed with his new heavyweight look. However, Anthony Joshua's experience and power cannot be underestimated. Fury's opinion adds drama, but the reality is that Joshua has faced elite heavyweights and his skills far surpass what Jake Paul has shown. This fight is high risk for Jake Paul, and fans expect Anthony Joshua to dominate despite Fury's bold claims.
I don't know about tune up. I think Jake Paul knocks him out.
Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why so? What impresses you about Jake Paul?
I just think Jake Paul would knock AJ out. I think AJ's a spent force, and I think Jake Paul's on the rise. I like his new heavyweight look.
Simon Jordan says he wants to see Anthony Joshua knock Jake Paul out decisively, and even jokes he could send him into the next film. He admits realistically the fight may not be significant for Joshua, and his focus might be on bigger names like Tyson Fury. Joshua has the experience to make Jake Paul look like an amateur, and this fight is about entertainment and money rather than testing AJ. Fans know Joshua can dominate easily, but the hype surrounding Jake Paul keeps everyone talking and debating who really has the advantage.
I'd like to see him knock Jake Paul into the next round, but in the reality of what I think it's worth, no. I mean, I am moderately interested in seeing him fight Tyson Fury. Because I think it's the only box that's left undone.
Tommy Fury is confident Anthony Joshua would destroy Jake Paul with ease. He even jokes that AJ could beat him under any circumstance and still finish the fight in under a minute. This highlights Joshua's overwhelming power and experience compared to Jake Paul's limited professional boxing background. Fans watching this understand that AJ is in a completely different league. Jake Paul may have publicity and hype, but facing a former world heavyweight champion is a challenge he is not ready for. Joshua's ability to dominate is unquestionable and makes this fight look one-sided.
But if I can beat Jake Paul, then excuse my French, what the fuck is Anthony Joshua going to do to Jake Paul? I think my dad said that AJ could beat him with his prick, and I completely will back that up. Even if AJ had a broken arm in there, it still wouldn't go past a minute.
Derek Chisora points out that Jake Paul does not have the power to knock out Anthony Joshua. He predicts that if anything goes wrong, Jake Paul could end up in an ambulance. This comment shows just how far ahead AJ is in terms of experience, strength, and skill. Fans can expect Joshua to control the fight entirely and use his knowledge to dominate every round. Jake Paul's hype may bring attention, but in reality, Anthony Joshua is far superior and capable of ending this fight decisively without breaking a sweat.
Whatever happened to be exciting.
Does he have the power to knock out Joshua?
Nah, he hasn't got the power to knock out Joshua.
How does that fight end?
Jake Paul going in an ambulance, bro.
Jake Paul admits he likes the challenge of fighting Anthony Joshua and that people want to see him lose. He calls AJ an insane fight but seems eager to step into the ring. Despite his confidence, fans know Joshua's experience, power, and technique make him a massive favorite. Jake Paul may have hype and social media presence, but the reality is Anthony Joshua is a seasoned former world champion who can expose every flaw. This fight will be a huge spectacle, but the skill gap heavily favors Anthony Joshua.
And so I like the challenge. People, that's the criticism. Fight someone in their prime who's a beast. I think people just want to see me lose. That's really what the message is behind it all. And Anthony Joshua is an insane fight, but I want that challenge. We've been DMing back and forth. He wants to make it happen.
Logan Paul highlights how insane the fight conversation seems because Anthony Joshua is an elite world-class heavyweight. He recalls Joshua knocking out Francis Ngannou, a fighter who had never been down before, showing AJ's immense power. Facing Jake Paul, a novice compared to Joshua, is unrealistic as the skill gap is enormous. Logan's perspective confirms that this fight is more about hype than challenge. Fans know that Anthony Joshua can end fights decisively, and Jake Paul stepping in is a spectacle moment, but in pure boxing terms, Joshua is far beyond any threat Jake Paul poses.
The Joshua thing is crazy.
Is that a real conversation?
Jake's a fucking lunatic, and it's probably real. I saw Joshua knock out Francis Ngannou, and the guy was like out cold for 5 minutes, and this is a guy who had never been knocked down, let alone knocked out.
If he steps in the ring with him, and actually a bell rings and there are punches thrown, every bit of Jake Paul is not a real boxer conversation is gone forever.
Spencer Oliver explains that Anthony Joshua might treat the Jake Paul fight as a warm-up and an easy money grab. Fans may not like it because it is more about entertainment than competition. Oliver points out that at this stage in Joshua's career, he is focused on bigger challenges. This fight is financially smart for Anthony Joshua, but does not test his abilities. Jake Paul may bring hype and attention, but Anthony Joshua's skill and experience make him the clear favorite. It is a fight designed to entertain and capitalize on popularity rather than push AJ to his limits.
Well, Anthony Joshua was talking about wanting warm-up fights before going into bigger fights, but look, it's prize fighting at the end of the day, and the way that Joshua was here and Matchroom and all the team, the fans won't like this, by the way.
I don't like it
No,
either.
I don't like it either. But the way that Joshua
at
is here is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab, but at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking?
The Wade concept confirms that Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in Miami. This fight comes after Jake Paul's planned exhibition with Gervonta Davis was canceled due to allegations surrounding Davis. Anthony Joshua's name brings legitimacy and skill to the bout, while Jake Paul steps in for attention and entertainment. Fans understand this is more a spectacle than a true competitive match. The fight is strategically placed as a high-profile event, and Joshua's dominance is expected, making it extremely difficult for Jake Paul to compete with a former heavyweight champion.
Coppinger, Anthony Joshua, and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami, sources tell The Ring's Mike Coppinger. Paul steps up to fight former heavyweight champion after his exhibition with Gervonta Davis was canceled.
Showbiz The Adult emphasizes that Anthony Joshua is experienced and has faced challenges before, while Jake Paul has no heavyweight experience or amateur background. Joshua stepping in against Paul is not a risk in terms of skill, but more about spectacle and money. Jake Paul has fought only a handful of professionals and was defeated by Tommy Fury, showing he is far from the level of a world-class champion. Fans know this fight heavily favors Anthony Joshua, and it is unlikely Jake Paul will have any realistic chance to win. The bout is about hype rather than genuine competition.
AJ Joshua, and why would Anthony AJ Joshua take this fight in Jake Paul? Here's the thing, that shouldn't confuse you either. It ain't like Anthony AJ Joshua has never done this before. Take it on Jake Paul, who has had no heavyweight experience, no amateur background, has only fought a handful of professional boxers, one in which Tommy Fury defeated him.
The Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight is one of the most talked about matchups in recent boxing history, and it carries a lot at stake for both fighters. Anthony Joshua has everything to gain by proving that his skill, power, and experience remain unmatched even against viral sensations stepping into the heavyweight division. A win for Joshua would cement his status as the dominant force in the sport and shut down all critics questioning his choice of opponents. On the other hand, if Jake Paul somehow manages to shock the world, it would be a historic upset that catapults him into global fame, but it would take an almost impossible performance to match Joshua's elite level. Mentally, Anthony Joshua is stronger, hungrier, and more disciplined, and it is clear he wants this fight more to demonstrate his dominance. Fans now have to decide who they are backing, and you can join the conversation by commenting below and sharing your predictions. Are you backing Anthony Joshua, or do you think Jake Paul will pull the upset?